In the Pokrovske direction, the AFU tanks are crushing the enemy, and the Ukrainian defenders are powerfully holding back the audacious Russians. This section of the front is literally on fire. The forces of Putin's army are being smashed to pieces. Why are the Russians gritting their teeth but not retreating? Details in our story.
Donetsk region, Pokrovske direction, a city where fierce battles are currently taking place. The soldiers of the 155th Separate Mechanized Brigade Anna Kievska are preparing the German Leopards for combat operations.
The drag of the gun. She calls it sniper. If everything is calibrated correctly, then each shell can hit right on the dot.
Due to the overwhelming presence of enemy drones in the air, tank crews primarily engage the enemy at night. The Russians have fewer night drones, although they still cause quite a bit of trouble.
His task was to head into the woods. They blew it up. Well, we were a little bit hurt too, cheapskate. There were a lot of drones, a lot. I tracked 6 in the optics. They were following us.
This is a video of the same battle where Sergei's crew is dismantling the Muscovite fortifications. The commander says yes, it was not easy. It was also received in return, but a German car is a German car.
I think that if there had been those hits that this tank has already withstood, we wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. If we were using Soviet equipment.
Here we can see what is called the necessity of this war. This is dynamic protection, even for a tank like the Leopard, because the intensity of combat and the lethality of weapons in the Russian-Ukrainian war are such that you simply can't do without this kind of protection. The dynamic protection on the Leopards is already a Ukrainian development born from combat experience.
Well, and the half-shell hit, it wanted to knock out our track and tore off our armor. The equipment holds up. German protection, assistance for defense, and everything is fine.
Equipment is just equipment, but the outcome of the battle still depends on those who operate it. Tankers say they are all mobilized, former civilians. They mastered the Leopards abroad. That training was good. Not really, they don't dare to judge. They state the facts. You come from civilian life, but were you ever involved with tanks before? Even with the tanks, no, I wasn't even involved. In fact, I was determined. And now here's Yuri, the driver mechanic of this fearsome machine. Oh, absolutely. Say the commanders.
There is a spark in people, tankers, but they saw that machines save lives. This is not Soviet, and therefore people have already reacted positively to this, that they are ready to leave.
There was fear at the beginning, before the first departure. After the first departure, fear settled down. I don't know where. So there's a task. We go out. We work.
The scandal regarding the 155th Brigade has reached the tankers as well. A number of media outlets have spread information regarding the problems of this unit. It concerns in particular the mass mobilization, insufficient training, and significant losses of the fighters.
It doesn't respond to what's happening in the brigade at the political level. Our task is to defend the state. That's it.
The new brigade is named after Princess Anna of Kiev, who became the Queen of France. The recruits were trained in military affairs in France. The higher command is responding to the resonant information. Exclusively answering our questions is the commander of the Air Defense Forces, Mikhailo Drapati.
Drapati has a place. Thank God I had a negative attitude towards all these manifestations and to what could have been fixed on the ground. All levels of command, meaning all commanders, and leaders under skilled command depend on the success of this personnel, which is what we are currently working on. I am confident that what was voiced will soon be refuted.
The President has taken control of the situation in the 155th Brigade. The Ministry of Defense, the General Staff, the State Bureau of Investigation, and the Security Service of Ukraine have been instructed to provide official reports to the head of state in the near future. From the Eastern Front, Ihor Levenok, Bohdan Savrutsky, and Oleg Kukarsky, the Channel Intermarathon presents Unified News.
In Donetsk, the armed forces of Ukraine are tearing the enemy apart. The enemy can't establish themselves or escape in time. The occupiers' equipment is bursting into flames like fireworks, and the bunkers are simply turning into craters. The Russians relaxed and did not expect this? Ukrainian Titans dealt them a powerful slap. How the front is being cleared of the enemy. Unique footage in our material.
3 negatives in the tower, right? There are 3 negatives in the tower. Full, all done.
Just a few more seconds and the fighters will rush out into the 20-degree frost to their firing position. They receive the command to fight and are rushing to their positions.
Despite the bitter cold, the self-propelled artillery installation of the Layud Brigade does not let the fighters down. The guns are quickly aimed, loaded, and prepared to deliver the first morning strike on the enemy.
Send it! Island!
Well, the nails are flying to the Russians, just like those funeral notices from the Ukrainian police. In 2022.
The 120 Tulimitras shell flies towards the heads of the occupiers, and the soldiers quickly return to cover. The enemy's response may not be long in coming, and the sky is too clear. They might notice us.
Target hit, good job. UAV pilots. We hit a whole group of UAV pilots. All right, tell me, what's up in the sky for us?
Later, the commander of the cannons would add that his calculation worked for the ban. The Russians tried to get their drones into the air. Now no one will fly from there in the near future, although the enemy has plenty of targets.
Just 2 months ago, some of their group came here and they were launching Orlans every day. And a lot of fiber optics were added.
This is our second meeting with the Vitamin. 6 months ago, he and his crew were destroying Russians near the Chasiv Yar. He says, during this time, both the war and the enemy's tactics have changed. Now, their self-propelled artillery is firing at the occupiers near Toretsk. Sometimes we have to work in non-stop mode.
The Russians are advancing, constantly pushing. They're pushing local regional assaults.
The artillerymen are destroying the enemy infantry, but they just keep coming and coming. The Russians are not giving up on their attempts to capture Toretsk. At the same time, they are trying to advance towards the neighboring Kostiantynivka.
Well, just yesterday, probably about 10 shells fell, maybe in half an hour. A shell flew in for more than an hour. They were also working the area back and forth. It's not true that it's always quiet there.
Today, the main task of these artillerymen is to cover the infantry. The cannon easily breaks up clusters of enemy stormtroopers and their light equipment. It's safer to come here in an armored vehicle. For now, the enemy is afraid. Each of these police officers joined the United Assault Brigade LUD voluntarily. Among them is Sova. In civilian life, she worked at the district police department and decided that she would be more effective on the front lines.
I have a daughter. She's 12 years old. I want her to reign in a peaceful country without these wars.
And the 24-year-old mechanic driver of a pseudo-Lexus does not lose faith that one day the Ukrainian flag will fly over his city again. To his hometown of Vysochansk. It's less than 100 kilometers from here.
My hometown has unfortunately turned into ruins. The apartment was very badly damaged. Well, what can you do? Now I'm an internally displaced person. Somehow we have to live the farthest. That's the motivation to beat the enemy.
They put in maximum effort every day to ensure the enemy doesn't advance any further. Although they don't hide it, the enemy is powerful and spares neither manpower nor shells. But for now, Toretsk remains under our control.
This machine has been working since 2014 and is still going.
Alexander, known as
Kuzmin, a resident of the Kharkiv city administration.